That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
Hello and welcome to Content and Capable, where I try to figure out what it really means to adult. Today I spoke to Beth Reekles, the author of The Kissing Booth, about her journey from Wattpad to becoming a published author, and what that meant for her as she became an adult. Welcome to Content and Capable, Beth.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I was speaking to Christina and her friends because they had you on the restricted section the other week.
Yeah.
And they just could not stop saying how lovely you were to speak with. So I'm so excited to chat with you all about your journey book writing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just so flattered. I don't know what to say. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah. And so how did you get, were you always interested in writing, as a kid and stuff?
Yeah, I was always that kid in primary school when you'd be told to write a short story for English class. And I would, everyone else would do a page or two in their exercise books, and I would do 5 or 6, and I'd want to spend my break time carrying on. And, I would go home and write short stories or whatever. I remember waiting for the 5th Harry Potter book to come out, and I was like, okay, well, while I wait, I'm just going to write my own version of what I think is going to happen to Harry in his 5th year. Mm-hmm. Which, obviously now we would term that fan fiction, but, as an 8-year-old or whatever, I was just like, okay, cool, I'll just write a little story about Harry and the Weasleys.
Yeah.
Because I'm so desperate to know what happens next.
Yeah, I definitely think, when you had to wait for those books, and I was lucky, I read them late enough that I didn't have to wait, but definitely would think up of things to kind of fill in those gaps. I think especially for me, the one that I remember kind of formulating those kind of things in my head was The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini.
I was going to say the Aragon books, yeah.
Yeah. Just because, especially because I think I got the first 2 books at once, and then I had to wait a little bit for the last 2 books.
Yeah, it was quite a wait for the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and at that time I was just like, you know what? I can kind of, make guesses, but even then it surprised all of us, I think, especially that last one. I won't put any spoilers here, but it was I remember reading it, and I think I had to read a couple of chapters twice because there was a lot going on. And so how did you then transfer that writing and that filling in those gaps of the Harry Potter books into something that kind of got you a bit more attention outside of, your own kind of little bubble?
Well, I actually retreated further into my own little bubble quite a lot first. So when I was about 11, moving up to, the big school, my parents gave me an old laptop to do homework on. And I was like, excellent, now I don't have to use the big family computer to write stories. And, in those cases, my mum would always be like, oh, let's read what you're writing. And I kind of hated showing people what I was writing even then. But all of a sudden I was like, the power of the laptop. I could just write and no one has to see it, no one has to know. So my parents would sort of see me in my bedroom on the computer, and they'd be like, oh, what are you doing, Beth? And I was like, homework, and I'd have a document ready to go with history homework or something. I'd be like, no, I'm just on Facebook, just talking to my friends or something, playing Farmville.
Yes, no, it's definitely one of those things. I have younger siblings about that age as well, and they've got their own laptops, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing homework. And I know because I did the same thing. I go, no, you're not doing homework. I know you're doing something else. But yes, it was...
But I was a very trustworthy child. The only thing I actually got in trouble with at school for was about books. Mm-hmm, so...
Yeah. Oh, you and me the same. I tell this story all the time, but I got banned from reading books in high school.
No. What, altogether?
my mother banned reading books through school term because I would read the books and not do my homework.
Oh my gosh.
And so now as I've become an adult, I've had to reteach myself how to read. And I think, like, on one hand, it was really good. On the other hand, I now have to do all these readings for university, and I'm sitting here and struggling through it all. I'm like, I used to love reading. I used to love, you know, finding all these new crazy facts, but nah. It's been a bit of a learning curve to get back into it. And so when you got back into, like, as you were writing things on your laptop, did you ever consider sharing them beyond?
Not for a good while, until I was about 15 and I found Wattpad. So until then I'd been writing, like, I wrote this whole fantasy trilogy, and each one was probably about 200,000 words or something. So they were no longer short stories. And I'd write vampire books and stuff like that. I was very into the fallen angel stuff, because when I was about 15, that was Twilight era. So everything was paranormal romance. And that was around the time that a friend at school told me about a book she was reading. And I was like, this sounds exactly like the kind of thing I like to read. What's it called? I'll go home and order it online. And she's like, it's not exactly a book you can buy. It's on this site called Wattpad, where people just kind of write stuff and post it on there for free. And I was like, oh my God, that's even better. So I kind of go home and I look at Wattpad and make a profile. And I was on there for a while as a reader before I was like, well, other people are posting their stuff. And, like, I don't know if my stories are any good, but maybe someone else might enjoy the sort of thing I'm writing. I don't know. You know, as a 15-year-old doing quite well in school, like, well, I think my grammar's pretty decent and my spelling, so that's something at least. And I kind of just, I was completely anonymous on Wattpad. Like, I didn't have my age, my first name. I mean, Reekles is not even my real last name. It's a nickname that I was sort of given at school, but I thought no one that I know at school will kind of go looking for me on here.
Yeah.
So I just started uploading my own kind of YA romance books on there. They were not vampire books at that point, specifically because I was, like, really tired of reading all that. So, like, with The Kissing Booth, I really wanted the best friend who was a guy but not a love interest, because I was really sick of that trope, but I loved the bad boy trope. I loved the whole forbidden romance thing. And I was like, I know exactly what book I want to read, but I can't find it. And I was like, oh, I'll just write it, which didn't feel like a revolutionary idea or anything, because, you know, I'd been writing stories as long as I could remember. And I was like, well, I'll post it on Wattpad, because I'm on Wattpad now. And yeah, that was that. And I still didn't tell kind of anyone for a good long while, until it's kind of started taking off. And I had, like, a short story published in a teen magazine and stuff. And people were like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know you liked writing, Beth. And I was like, oh, well, actually, now that you mention it, I'm kind of popular as a writer online.
Just pulls out the laptop from, like, 5 years ago. Like, here we go. We've got heaps to go through.
Yeah.
In terms of Wattpad, for, like, someone who I'd never really experienced that side of, you know, the whole reading and writing community. What kind of communities did you encounter, and what were some of your first impressions of that space?
Well, it just felt like a community, and that was, like, the big thing, you know, because this was still sort of early internet days and Twitter was barely just taking off or starting out around that time. You know, this was like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And I got an account actually on Twitter because I was on Wattpad, and I was like, oh, here is a place I can also say, I've uploaded a new chapter, go read it. So yeah, it was just the fact that there was this community, and I'd found all these other, what felt like young writers, teenagers in particular, kind of all across the world, also writing books, which I'd felt was a really weird hobby because I didn't really know anyone else who liked doing it. So that was part of the reason I kept it so secret. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And, you know, I would be in the comments on books that I was reading, like, can't wait for the next chapter. OMG, loved this. Can't believe that happened. So when I started uploading, you know, I would get similar comments, and occasionally it was, you know, longer comments or constructive criticism. Very, very rarely back then did I see any kind of negativity. because for the most part it was like, well, this book isn't for me. And I would, you would just kind of say, well, this book isn't for me, and you would close out of it. You would just go and find something else.
Yeah.
You didn't kind of waste your time trolling some hardworking writer or anything. And I think it still feels that way, but it's just, like, obviously the kind of platform and the profile that I have now with the Kissing Booth, that's a little bit different. So a lot of times people will kind of come to the book just to kind of trash it and tell me their opinions because they think I'm not going to see it, which is maybe the funniest part about it.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Like, I think especially in the early internet days, there was less, it was less messy. Like, we always talk about Twitter nowadays being a bit of a cesspit of, a combination of, like, real disgusting, stupid commentary.
Vitriol in it, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I'm a journalist by trade, so, like, I have to be on there. And I remember I'm not very good at social media, and I vividly remember, it was only a couple of weeks ago, to be honest, but I was researching for an assignment I was writing. So I was writing an assignment about right-wing politics and religion, the two things you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table. And
I was going to say nice, easy, non-controversial topics.
Yeah. And so I was searching up, looking for some specific commentary on a politician as he got made the leader of his party. And it was disgusting. I had to scroll through all of these baseless claims to try to find some, like, proper constructive criticism on Twitter. And not only that, but because this particular politician had a very generic name, I actually got a British politician with a similar name who also kept popping up. And, British politics is just another step up from Australian politics.
Yeah.
And that was, like, reading them, and I'm like, this isn't even, like, there wasn't even, like, a proper scandal. Like, I follow British politics, I think, relatively closely. And even then I was like, whoa, that is, that's wild. But yeah, I wasn't on the early internet, which I don't know whether I regret or not. But it was that, that just makes me go, oh, I wish I was there, because that sounds so much better than it is today.
I tell you what it felt like was, like, when I found Tumblr and I was like, here are the nerds like me. Mm-hmm. Here are my people. And it's kind of like now on TikTok, when the algorithm learns you well enough that it's like, these are the videos you want to see. And you're like, here are the people like me. Amazing. Mm-hmm. You people get me, like, 110%. This is scary accurate.
Yes, it's amazing. Especially when I get, like, Hank Green 3 times in a row. And I'm like, yes. That's the kind of nerding out I want, the cool information.
Exactly.
So then, you said, your the Kissing Booth on Wattpad started taking off. What did that look like? Was like thousands or tens of thousands, or were they starting to write, like, articles about you, or how did that work?
So I already had maybe about 1,000 followers on the platform by the time I started posting the Kissing Booth, so not an inconsiderable audience. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought, well, I'll post 3 chapters at once, or 3 or 4 chapters, whatever it was, so that people have got enough to read to decide if they actually get into the story. It kind of gave them enough, I felt, to sink their teeth in, so they would add it to their library and they would kind of remember to come back for the updates. Mm-hmm. And it was fairly gradual. I was always, like, refreshing the page obsessively after I uploaded a chapter. And it was, I think it fairly quickly gained sort of a few 10,000 reads. And I would upload a chapter every couple of days. And I would always sort of leave notes at the end, sort of, saying, thanks everyone for reading. I'm so glad you're all enjoying it. Blah, blah, blah. What did you think? Next chapter will be up in a few days. Or I'm on holiday this week. Hopefully there's internet at the hotel, sort of thing, And I'd say, I've got exams next week, so there won't be a chapter then, but I'll try and post on the weekend. And I tried to be as consistent as I could with that. And I was always replying to comments. And I started off, I remember, reading every comment. So I would post in the evening, thinking it was kind of, I get sort of the British and the after school US audience. And then in the morning I would wake up with enough time before school to kind of read through the comments, and I would, read them when I got home from school as well, and I would reply to people or reply to messages, and eventually it just kind of started to get out of hand. And I remember one chapter I posted was this like horrible cliffhanger, because every chapter had something of a bit of a cliffhanger, to keep people coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular one was when Lee, the best friend, found out that Elle and Noah, the main character and the love interest, were dating behind his back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like exactly where the chapter ended, and my readers just kind of lost their minds over it.
Yeah.
And I wake up the next morning to hundreds of comments just on that chapter, at which point I'm like, I cannot like just read these in like 10, 15 minutes before school anymore. Mm-hmm. Oh dear. And this was around the time I'd also kind of started to get a bit more confidence in myself. I realised people actually liked what I was writing. I had this short story published in this magazine as well. And, the reads were going up in kind of tens of thousands and whatever. And I remember sitting on the sofa near my parents one evening. They said, what are you doing on the laptop? I said, oh, I'm uploading a new chapter of my story. And they're like, what? And I sort of give them a quick, vague version. Yeah. And they're like, I mean, is this safe? Like copyright-wise and stuff? We don't know. And I was like, oh yeah, my story's got 100,000 reads. And then every so often I'd start saying to them, oh, my story's got 250,000 reads. It's got 700,000 reads. It's got 2 million. It's got 4 million. Mm. And after a while, it started being 8, 10 million or whatever. And they turned around and said, these are really high numbers, Beth. Mm. Is that good? Because they had no frame of reference. They didn't know, was 8 million bottom of the pile for that kind of website, and all the books that were on there, they didn't know. And I was like, oh no, actually it's one of the most popular books on the entire website right now. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a lot of books on the website. Yeah. And they were like, oh, okay. And they didn't really know what to do with that. And they're like, oh, good for you, carry on. Mm-hmm. And that summer, I'd also... because it was all over the summer, really, that I was posting The Kissing Booth. I think it was April to September. And that summer, because The Kissing Booth was doing really well, the Wattpad team were working on promoting this app for a company in Canada, and they wanted some writers on the platform to write stories for the characters in the app to promote it. So they reached out to me and hired me. So that was my first, paid piece of writing that I'd done. At which point my parents were like, wow, you're a writer, Beth. Okay, where did this come from?
Yeah, that's super interesting. When I I didn't even talk to my parents about this podcast much when I started.
Yeah.
It was a big step for me, because as someone who, I don't know, I don't have a huge amount of confidence in myself and my abilities, and I know I can do things well, but I have this tendency after a period of time to kind of drop off and, move on to something else.
Yeah.
And I was worried that I would be able to keep a sustained amount of effort and keep a sustained amount of quality. And so I didn't tell my parents for, I think, almost 2 months that I had a podcast. And then I think I made a comment because I told my siblings, because I don't know, because
they're siblings. It's a very different thing.
It is very different, and they can give me much more honest feedback than my parents, who were a little bit more tech weary. And then I told my parents, and my mother and my mother and father are very avid podcast listeners.
Yeah,
they're like, really? You started your own podcast? And weren't quite sure how to react, because it was something so different. And they're like, oh, okay.
And then cool, carry on.
And then every now and then, they ask me questions oh, how's it going? How do you, and then asking process questions, because each week I have a new guest on, so it's sourcing a guest is this whole process. And and they, I don't know, I think at one part they're like, oh, this is really cool, and the other part they're like, this is really out there. I don't know, whether I'm successful or not. But when you were...
I mean, you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
It's pretty successful.
Yeah, I do. And I was sitting here the other day, and I was like, oh, I've got my own podcast. And I was looking at the first date I released an episode. Yeah. And it was May, late May, sorry. And I'm like, it's been over 6 months. And I'm like, I have, in the last, I graduated school 2 years ago, and, I haven't really kept a job or I lived in the same place for more than a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so it's been, like, really fascinating that I've kept on this for, like, 6 months and continued on it. And I suppose it's the same with, writing The Kissing Booth when you were first writing that. How did you, especially as, a teenager, because I know myself as a teenager would constantly get distracted, how did you, like, continue writing that, keep pushing forward with it?
So one of the things that I found, particularly when I was a teenager writing books, is that there would be some story ideas that I would start and they would fizzle out very quickly. Like I couldn't make it past sort of chapter 2, or there was too much, if it was a bit fantasy, there was too much world building required. And I'm really not the kind of person who can plot their story in advance. I just kind of write and see where it goes, which is why those don't work for me so well. But with The Kissing Booth, it was a case of I wrote several chapters and I kind of knew that it was going to be a sustained piece of work. The way that I write is typically as well that I have the idea of the characters, the sort of hook, and like the one big emotional or exciting or fun scene that I want to get to. So in the case of The Kissing Booth, it was the kiss at the kissing booth. Mm-hmm. And that's all I know when I start writing. I'm like, okay, let's figure out how we get there. And then by then I will have thought of other scenes. I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how we get there. Oh, and that's where this scene slots in. Okay, and then I can see how this will take us to that other big scene I want to do now. So that was how it started with The Kissing Booth, and I always made sure that I was a few chapters ahead of posting, so that either if I was busy, because it was in the middle of my GCSE exams at school as well.
What?
So yeah, like in hindsight, why would I choose that time? That's that particular summer to start writing a book. Why would I do that to myself? But this didn't occur to me. I was just like, I really want to read this book. Cannot find it. Will write it. Might as well post it online. I guess this is what I'm doing now.
That's just so wild. I don't think in America they have the same level as, like, final exams as in Britain and Australia does. But, like, our final exams are intense. I gave half of our academic enrichment cohort pneumonia before we sat. We had the way it works is we have this big standardized test called the QCS, the Queensland Core Skills Test. And I gave half our academic enrichment kids pneumonia and then sat there in the back of this big sports hall coughing away doing this because I knew I had to do it. My brother, because they changed the system the year after, my brother does these standardized tests that are 50% of his grade. And I'm like sitting, he and his twin sat there for 2 months and just didn't do anything except for schoolwork.
Yeah.
And it's like writing a book at the same time.
I know.
But
I'm also very much a night owl. So now that I've given up work, like the day job recently to be a full-time writer, all it's done is reinforce the fact that I do not do mornings at all. But yeah, like I would kind of, as well, because I was doing it in secret, I would write a lot at night when everyone had gone to bed. So I kind of learned to touch type by the glow of the laptop, kind of, with it kind of on my lap, in my, like, sort of slouched in my bed, writing in the middle of the night. Like, I'd hear someone get up to go to the toilet and I would, like, stop because I didn't want them to hear, like, the clack, clack, clack of the keyboard and stuff like that.
It is very, like, I have, not fond, but memories of that. Like, I'm doing something on my, when I got a phone, because the laptops I had were so big and chunky that, like, they basically lived out in the kitchen. But for me, it was like when I first got a phone and, like, I would be watching a YouTube or something on it and then, like, turn it off quickly as, mum and dad would walk through and check on all the kids' bedrooms before they went to bed. And it's like that. Did the laptop get upgraded? Did you upgrade your laptop before you finished school?
I must have done at some point because they were old laptops and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever actually, like, got a new laptop until after university, maybe. Or maybe I got a new one to go to university. I can't really remember because my dad's quite gadgety and he always likes buying himself the latest tech. So there were always, like, a couple of old laptops around, like, as he would decide he wanted a new one.
Yeah.
There was, like, a newer one that was now downgraded.
That's, I kind of wish that had happened. My dad my dad got an iPad for work, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and it was this huge thing, and we had to like slowly teach him how to use the iPad, because he's not, like, he's a very smart man, he's an engineer, he knows what he's doing, and there are times where he can't figure it out. And even my mum, who has had a smartphone since, it would have been like 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Has, struggled from time to time now. And I'm sitting there going, is this like the technological demise of my parents? Am I watching them fall apart here? But I love that, like, we always had like a newer laptop to work on.
Well, I remember, like in my first year of university as well, I'd been home for a weekend or something, and I get back to my dorm and open up my laptop, and it just was not working. And it turned out like the bulbs in the screen had gone or something.
Yeah.
So the only way I could do it still worked, but you couldn't see anything. So I had to I had to literally sit in the dark and shine a torch on the screen and like do that to like transfer all my files to a USB, and I'm there like, oh my god, all my books, my stories, oh my god. I mean, most of them are never going to see the light of day, but I've lost them, oh my god. Need to save them. And I sort of rang my parents, and luckily, because my dad had old laptops, they were able to bring me one down like that night, and they're like, yeah, you need it to do your schoolwork. And I'm thinking, I need it to write. I'm like, I don't know what I can like, I don't know who I am if I can't do that.
Yeah. And so, as you finished school and finished GCSEs, which I'm very aware of how stressful those are, and the fact that I still cannot get over the fact that you basically published a book through GCSEs.
I mean, the kicker is that I was top of my year for GCSEs as well. It was all downhill from there academically, but there was obviously something going right for me.
You just make me so jealous.
It was all downhill from there, but
I was like the kind of gifted and talented kid, but I got moved from like a smaller primary school to a larger high school, which meant that I was like went from the big fish in the small pond to the small fish in the big pond.
Yeah.
And so I then kind of like sat middle of the pack in terms of like not the upper echelon, but like the top half of the grade. I kind of sat middle of the pack. And it was, I don't know, it was nice to like be kind of smart and like be able to hang out with the smart kids and like kind of glean, some of their study tips and habits. But then at the same time, I don't know, the ducks, so the girl who got top of my year level and myself did all the same subjects, except she did Maths C, which is like the extension maths, and I did film and television. And like, so we were in the same classes for pretty much everything. And I just was like, how does she do this? Because she and I ended up doing like an extra subject on top of everything else as well. We did music extension, which was an afternoon subject, which you're supposed to then like take a whole lesson category off and you take what was called a spare. And we didn't. So we would be in classes. So we had 6 periods a day from 8:20 through till 3:05. And then on a Thursday afternoon, we would go and do music extension. And we had our rehearsals because we were both musicians. And and then we had study and stuff. And it was just like, I struggled and she didn't seem to struggle one bit. I know there was times where she found it really, really hard. But I sat there in awe going, how did you do all of this? And was just super successful every step of the way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was definitely when I got to university and like I'd sort of coasted through doing well at school and stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, not very good. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just here to have a good time. I'm just here to enjoy learning about string theory or something.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So, like, as you finished up school and that, wow, every time I say school, all I can think of is you writing books. Sorry, I can't get over it. The kissing booth was taking off. Did you then start getting like a little bit more attention? And what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, so basically with the Kissing Booth, what happened was, at the end of 2011, after I'd finished writing it, Wattpad did this thing, and they do it every year now, called the Watty Awards, which was like a fan-voted award, and they had different categories. So that year I won the most popular teen fiction book on the website, which was like, that felt like a dream come true. I was like, oh my God, amazing. People really like they love my book. And then 2012, I'd started looking into how to get published, because by then my confidence was a lot higher. I kind of believed in myself as a writer and kind of more generally as a person. Like, one of the other things that kind of came out of it all was around that time I was choosing my A-level subject, and I was like, I really want to do physics. And people were like, that's a boys' subject. And I was like, yeah, but it's like really cool. Like, don't you get it? And like, I also did languages, and people were like, those don't match up well with physics and maths. I was like, yeah, but they're also really cool, and that's what I want to do. So I was kind of getting a lot more confident in myself, and I kind of like ditched some quite toxic friends and moved to what was arguably a much more nerdy friend group. Who I just had so much more fun with and like really came alive around. And I was like, yeah, I could totally get published one day in the distant future. Looked up how to do it. I started like researching literary agents, and I was kind of like, okay, at some point I will do this. Like, I will really, really try. But it kind of never got that far, really, because in the October, a week after I sent off my university applications, I'm sat in the evening scrolling through my emails from like comments and messages on my Wattpad profile, and I never got around to reading all of them. I still have about 15,000 unread ones, just like sat in a folder. But I just happened to open one that was from a lady who said she was an editor at Random House, now Penguin Random House, saying, I really love The Kissing Booth. We would really love to publish it.
Wow.
And I'm like, I freak out. I like tear the charger out the laptop, go running into my parents like, oh my God, it's happened. Oh my God. And we all sort of sit down, we read this message, and she provided her email address and stuff. And they're like, okay, we need to check that this lady is legit. We'll look her up on LinkedIn. Okay, she seems to be who she says she is. Like, you know, it's an at randomhouse.com sort of email or whatever it was. This looks fairly legit. Okay, we'll reach out. So we kind of sat there and crafted this email from me. We had a call set up with this editor, and I think it was like her boss and a publicist. About a week later, they invited me to their London office, and my dad came with me because they're like, you're 17, Beth, you need some parental guidance at this thing. Like, my dad had to sign the contract because I was, you know, technically legally a minor and stuff like that. But yeah, like a week after this email, we went to their London office. They offered me a 3-book contract, and also like stacks and stacks of free teen books that they had published. Wow. With some tote bags, and I'm like, I will sell you my soul at this point. Where do I sign? And my dad's like reading through the contract properly, because he sort of dealt with contracts in work, so he kind of recognised what he was looking at a little bit. And normally this is where, you know, you would have an agent negotiating for you, but I didn't have one. And I kind of at that point thought they were very much just a middleman who would then take a cut of the money. And it, you know, they obviously do so much more than that, and they really take care of you and your career and everything. But yeah, I was just like, okay, cool. And it was, you know, it looked like a very good contract, and my dad helped look through it, like I said. So I signed that. So that was in like the half-term holidays. So it would have been right at the end of October, early November. And by December 13th, I think it was, maybe December 11th, the ebook had been published. Wow. So there was not even like a 6-week turnaround on it. So there wasn't like a lot of editing done. It was mostly just kind of, you don't need this chapter, this is filler, this is like a 120,000 word book, we need to cut this down a bit. Don't need this scene, don't need that scene, let's cut these paragraphs. Okay, send it off to the proofreader.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, you know, the episode that's coming out before before this one is with Christina and Grace talking about their new business, their new publishing business.
They mentioned it when I spoke to them on the restrict section. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, and we were talking about that whole process of, you know, you get a submission from an author, how you turn a submission into, you know, a fully formed, really, really, you know, well-rounded book. And they were talking about that, how important the editing process is. And it's amazing to see that because you got quite so much, you know, acclaim and so many comments and so much feedback, you almost didn't need that editing process because it almost was done for you.
I think it was a lot of, as well, not necessarily that the book didn't need editing. Mm-hmm. And like looking back at it 10 years later, I'd probably say, wow, yeah, we should have done some more editing work on that. I could have tightened this up and done so much more with this. But, you know, I think what they wanted was this story that had obviously resonated with so many people on the platform, and they didn't want to turn it into something that it wasn't, or that it, like, kind of, there was a bit of a disconnect or something.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, the editing process for all of my other books has been quite different, but for that one, it was very much, okay, cool, well, we'd love to capitalise on this, and we don't want to, like, change too much. We would like to get it out in time for Christmas as an ebook, and obviously the lead times on a paperback are a lot longer because they have to physically print it and distribute it and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that came out in the April then.
Wow.
And my second book came out August 2013, and my third book of the deal came out in July 2014. So they all came out really quickly.
Wow. Did you ever, like, when you were writing the second and third books, you think get into like a bit of a rut because you had so much success from the first one?
Well, luckily with the second one, which is called Rolling Dice, because they were all standalone YA books rather than all part of the Kissing Booth series at that point.
Yeah.
Because me and my dad were there like, well, they would like another Kissing Booth book, but what if we make that book 4? Then that's a new contract. Yes, this is very intelligent of us. Haha. But like, I'd started writing my second book, Rolling Dice, pretty much as soon as I finished The Kissing Booth. And I knew I wanted to write something a bit different with that one. And again, with the third book, Out of Tune, there was just some, like, I think because at that point, a lot of the teen fiction that I was reading was less vampires and more kind of, I don't know how else to refer to it, but kind of heavier topics. It was more around like mental health and relationships and stuff like that. So that was kind of where that book fell a little bit more.
Kind of stuff.
Yes, everything was kind of at that point. It was very much like John Green, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think I don't want to like assume, but like to me, it kind of reflects like a maturing both of, you know, you as you came out of school and into university, but then also as like a maturing of the YA genre as it kind of grew up a little bit, because you know, like we had the Twilight and stuff, and it was all, you know, a little bit crazy, and then, you know, we headed towards these Perks of Being a Wallflower, and, you know, I'm thinking
then it led into like Hunger Games and everything.
But then and like things like the only book I can think of right now is Red, White and Royal Blue. I have never read it, but I've seen it spoken about enough, and like things like that where it's like a little bit more mature and a little bit more, I don't know, just like a little bit less suspension of disbelief as well. But that, you know. So then what prompted you to write The Kissing Booth 2 and 3?
So I'd always said, like, I was adamant on Wattpad that The Kissing Booth ended where it ended. There was not going to be a sequel. And I'm there thinking, it might well be, though, because there was like this one nagging idea of just a really messy Thanksgiving where Elle and Noah had, spoiler alert, broken up. The book's been out for like 2 years at this point, so I don't know how much of a spoiler that is. If you haven't read it, you should caught up by now. That just this idea of this really messy Thanksgiving where they'd broken up, and then, you know, their families are so intertwined that of course they're going to see each other and spend that time together. And I tried writing just the Thanksgiving scene for a while, so I had a couple of like early drafts of that, and then I figured out what was going so wrong with it was that I was trying to just write that one scene as opposed to doing what I did with my other books and being like, oh, that's the big scene. Let's write everything else to work out how we get there and what actually happens and how this all goes down. So that was sort of what prompted The Kissing Booth 2 for the most part. But obviously by the time we were actually working on publishing that, the movie was in the first movie was in production. So my agent's like, well, let's kind of wait and see how that takes off. Then we can approach your editor because, you know, capitalise on it and stuff. And then it looked like Netflix were going to greenlight a second one. So we were like, maybe hang on.
Yeah.
Because if they do, then, you know, the book's that bit more valuable. And Netflix went ahead and greenlit a third one as well, because the production company had already seen, and the scriptwriter, they'd already seen like the first draft essentially of what became The Kissing Booth 2.
Wow.
So they could use that to work on the script and everything. And it diverges quite a bit more than the first one, but I feel like it hits all the same beats and you've still got all the same sort of conflicts and the emotional hooks. And I understand that adaptations are always different, but Netflix had obviously greenlit the third one at the same time so they could film them together, like before the cast grew up too much or like had other projects going on and it just became too difficult to coordinate getting them back together again for a third one. So then the idea was kind of pitched that they would write the third one, like discuss the storyline with me and whatever, but that I would essentially do the book of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. Why not?
Yeah.
So The Kissing Booth 3 is the book based on the movie, based on the movies, based on my books.
Wow.
Which doesn't make it at all complicated, but it does end like with exactly the sort of scene that I discussed, that I'd always imagined them having right from the start.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And like, what was that process like when Netflix approached wanting to make The Kissing Booth into a movie?
So it wasn't Netflix at first. They kind of came in a bit later. So the way it worked was there was this small UK-based production company called Comics, although I think now they're called iGeneration. They like had an existing partnership with the publisher at the time of publication. So they heard about The Kissing Booth and approached me via the publisher saying that they were interested in the rights. And at that time, I also had, this was early 2013, there was quite a lot of buzz around the book being published. So they were like Hollywood agents sort of reaching out to me about it. And I didn't really know what to do with those messages. But then Comics had approached me, so I met them. And again, my dad came with me and we sat down with these guys in Paddington train station in London for a cup of tea. And they talked all about their passion for the story and their understanding of like the audience and the kind of core message of the book, I guess. And I just felt like they really got it somehow. And like I could really trust them because they felt so strongly about it. I was like, I feel like I just feel like you could take good care of my characters. And I was sort of advised as well that because they were a smaller company, they would kind of only invest in the stuff they were serious about seeing through, as opposed to being a big company who would buy up a dozen of the same thing and maybe pick one to do.
Yeah.
So then they had the rights. They brought Vince Marcello on board to script write and direct. So I had a couple of conversations with him, gave feedback on the script and stuff. I think my dad came to one of those meetings with Vince as well. And then, it must have been 2016-ish. I get a phone call from them because there's a lot of stuff going on in the background at that time to say Netflix are doing it. And I'm like, okay.
Yep, okay, yep.
And then it's like another call saying, okay, we've got like Joey King and Molly Ringwald. We're going to film in South Africa. I was like, okay, guess it's happening then. Which was really, really weird as well, because since selling the rights early 2013 to kind of basically 2017 when I could say we're filming, and then May 2018 when I was like, okay, now I have a trailer to share because it's officially on YouTube and the movie's coming out, like there was something you can watch. People would say to me like, oh, well, what's going on with the film? And I'm like, oh. Or like, well, stuff is going on, but I'm not allowed to tell you.
Yeah.
So, nothing
like,
but lots of exciting stuff.
during that time you were also like writing your other books on your, your 3-book contract, and
Yeah, there was a bit of a gap partly because I was at university, partly because I was suffering quite badly with depression at the time, and also a lot because I'd really hit a wall with my writing around book 3 with Out of Tune. Just after finishing up the edits on that, I just really struggled to get into writing something new afterwards, which normally wasn't a problem for me. Like I'd just find a new idea from someone, get stuck in.
Yeah.
But I think because I'd gotten published, I suddenly felt like I had to take myself very seriously as a writer.
Yeah.
And I'm not very good at taking myself seriously. Like it's the worst thing for me to do.
Yeah.
So it just didn't work for me. It wasn't until kind of my final year of university, I think, that when I kind of thought, I'm just going to write like Once Upon a Time fan fiction. Because I kept seeing gifs of Emma and Captain Hook all over Tumblr, and I was like, I love this so much, and I like a fairy tale retelling. So I was like, this is what I'm going to write about.
Yeah.
I'm going to just write this fan fiction. I was like, okay, now I feel like me again. This is what I like doing. And kind of after that, I sort of realised where I'd gone wrong a little bit, and why I'd struggled to write anything new. Kind of have taken that approach ever since. I'll just do it because it's fun.
Yeah, and, you went and took a day job, which you've recently left. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Going full time. But, why did you go into a day job? Was this, pressure to, was there this, pressure to go and do, a proper job, even though you were doing something really creative?
Ever so slightly, but that also kind of came from me because I become familiar with at that point that income as a writer is very inconsistent. So even if you sign, for instance, you see those kind of 6-figure book deals, the headlines about those, and that's not what I had, but for instance, those would be wrapped up in kind of bonuses maybe, or advances that get split out over different times, and obviously you've got to pay a portion to your agent when you have one, and you pay a portion to tax, so it kind of gets cut down chunk by chunk, but also in the fact that you don't receive it all at once, and it's very spread out and it's kind of sporadic. So unlike with royalties, I'm never exactly sure what I'm going to earn or when it's going to come in. So I was like, okay, well, it makes sense financially at this point. I can't support myself as a writer, or I don't think I can. But also I'd always seen myself working in IT and having an office job, and I kind of still wanted to do that. And I thought, well, for the last however many years, I've been writing alongside whatever else. I don't see why I can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
I did make a misstep in that I kind of took basically the only job that made me an offer in my 3rd year of university, and I took a grad scheme in finance, and it just wasn't for me, and the company culture did not suit me at all. Yeah. So I quit that by the end of the April, and I took a job then in IT after that, which was much more my speed. And again, I kind of took this attitude of I'm just going to do it because it interests me and I think it's fun or whatever. And they, the people who interviewed me, seemed to gel with that attitude. So I was like, I think I'll like it here. This is much more my speed. And like I said, I'd seen myself doing that, and I thought, well, I've always done both. And the only reason I've kind of given it up now was partly because it felt a little bit stagnant, just because of changes within the company and stuff. So I wasn't getting out of my job what I used to. Yeah. But also, I bought a house this year, so I kind of know, that's the thing I've been saving my book money for since I started earning some. So I was like, okay, well, financially, I kind of know where I'm at now, and I kind of budget very strictly and stuff like that. So I felt comfortable from a financial point of view taking that risk. Yeah. But also things like with the movies and stuff like that, or visits to, I've been invited out to Brazil a couple of times to do signings and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but this is time off work. So I'll fly out Friday night, fly back Monday, and I will just do that weekend and literally go to Rio for a weekend. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm taking time off work, and that means I can't take time off at Christmas to spend with my family or go on holiday or something.
100%. even, I've only recently started my 8 to 5 job, and I work 4 days a week. The 5th day a week, I've got a radio show I run, so I do the radio show on the 5th day. But even then, like, it's this whole mental balance. So I'm supposed to be going to go visit my brother at some stage. And so flying out and flying back. So it's like, well, I'll go Thursday through till Sunday because I've got to be back in time for Monday night. And then, like, I'm quite literally taking a whole month off in January, and I'm sitting here going, I've got to have everything organized. The podcast will go on a break for about a month and a half. But then, like, having everything organized to come back to the podcast and, like, start and keep going, and it's just I was just like, wow, there's so much, so much to do and so much to plan. And just to take that small amount of time, like, yes, it's a month. There's like 3 trips involved in that whole month, including the fact that I've decided it's too hard to cross the state border back into my home state. I'm just going to stay in the other state for the rest of the whole month because it's just too hard for me to, like, concentrate on, something else.
Yes, there's too much, like, mental power required. But
yeah, especially here in Australia because each state has different border restrictions. So and we've been told it's going to be notorious. It's going to take a notorious amount of time to get back into our state because our state is relatively COVID free. So everyone's trying, and it's also the state with the best beaches and, the best tourist spots.
So they've got to have, like, the strict rules and
and, like, I live in quite a summery place as well. So, everyone won't be wanting to go to the beach, and we're heading down south. I've got a couple of friends I'm meeting up with, and then going to go for a bit of travel, and then I got a big family meet up, and it's like there's no point going back because it's just and efficiency. I come back and I probably would work for 2 to 3 days, and then head back down again, and it's like that's just stupid.
Yeah, and it's like if you're taking that kind of time, if you're taking any time off, and you've got all those things to juggle, it's like you need to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Yes. It needs to be, like, so smoothly coordinated that it is, like, the best use of my time.
Yes, it's, amazing. And so, well, what does the future then hold for you? You've quit your job, you're writing another book. Your Love Lockdown is coming out very soon. I'm very excited to.
Very soon. Oh my God.
But what's next for you then?
So, obviously Love Lockdown, or Lockdown on London Lane as the US and Canadian title is going to be, comes out in February. So, hopefully I'm going to be doing some more promotion around that. I'm working on another new book at the minute, which I'm hoping to finish this month, in the next week or two. But I'm working on kind of more new adult books at the minute, so the kind of 20-something range. And then hopefully I will sell a new book in the new year because Love Lockdown was a 2-book contract. So they've kind of bought book 2, and we just need to actually, decide what that's going to be because I've got a couple sort of on the back burner.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there might be some more adaptations, but that's a very sort of hopeful thing. And then I'm just going to keep writing. I really want to try script writing as well, just because I think that could be really interesting. I'm going to be trying to invest a bit more time, like, on my YouTube channel and stuff like that now that I can. And I was planning to do that sort of October, November, but I ended up throwing a lot of time into finishing the new book instead, and completely underestimating the amount of time I would sleep in.
I'm not a morning person necessarily. Like, I'll wake up in the morning if I have to. Which is now most mornings because I've got to be out of the house before 7:30, which is just hurts my brain way too much.
That is painful to think about.
And, like, I don't mind it, but I'm way more of a night owl. Like, I'm more than happy to stay up till, midnight, 1 o'clock. I can't stay up much past that anymore, but, like, I'm more than happy to stay up to then doing things than...
Yeah, same.
And it's just... I don't know. But like I've been seeing your daily recaps of like how many words you've been writing, and it's amazing how many words you can write in a day. Like I struggle writing like a 2,000 word analytical essay, and then you're like, oh yeah, I wrote 5,000 words today. You know, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like because I like my sister did a geography degree, and she'd say like, oh, we have to do like this 10,000 word dissertation or something. I'm like, that's like a weekend's work. And obviously it's not, because you're like, you have to do so much research and stuff, but I know that because I used to do lab reports for my degree.
Yeah.
But people like, yeah, when people would say about all these word counts they have to do for essays, and I'm like, oh, nothing, that's fine. This does not sound like a big deal to me, because you know, I'll sit there and like my personal best is about 17,000 words in a day. And I don't think I got it for like so much as a cup of tea during that time, sort of thing, because I was like so obsessive over like getting to this one scene and kind of writing the story and whatever. But yeah, 5,000 words, I'm like, this is a pretty average day. Yeah, this is good enough.
Good enough. Wow. In terms of like the editing that you go through, just like how intense is that process nowadays?
It very much depends on the book. So, for instance, Lockdown on London Lane, Love Lockdown started out as a story I posted on Wattpad as 5 short stories that took place over the course of a week. And each character took place over like 1 to 2 days. Mm-hmm. And then you saw them all again at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Whereas like the main editorial notes for that was around restructuring it so that each character, you saw them through the whole week.
Yeah.
Rather than these short snippets of time.
Mm-hmm,
so that was kind of a little bit more difficult editorially, just because it was such a structural change. And because we were lengthening the story quite a lot, there was sort of more to think about around the characters and their storylines and the development of it, and kind of just getting deeper into it. Whereas like other times it might be around... so I think the Kissing Booth 3 actually was very light editorially. It was just kind of, can we get a little bit deeper in this side of things, or like see a bit more of this argument with Lee or something like that. But because we were going off a script for that one, it was like the editorial notes were quite light.
Yeah.
In terms of the, you know, the first storyline and stuff. And then it's just, you know, there's a couple of rounds like that, and then it's the copy edits.
Yeah.
Cutting out the fact that you've used grinned 8 times in one paragraph or something, and then it's the proofreading.
Yes. Proofreading sometimes is the bane of my existence. I don't know, I've learnt my parents' editing style because they edited a lot of things that I wrote. And so I kind of picked up on their editing style and then their conventions. And my mother's really good at like tone and stuff. And my father's very good at like the practical, you know, say what you want to say, you know, make sure it's clear. And so I used to, especially in like my last year of high school, would sit for hours in their front. Like, if they had like a bedroom and a study in the front of the house, I would sit for hours at the front there, like, discussing, you know, what words am I using here, you know, how should I, you know, write this properly, I need to structure this so it you know, fits both the style but then also works, you know, for what I want to write. And it was a lot of discussion. But like I was so glad I did that, because when I got to university and I have to self-edit, and like I don't live at home anymore, so my parents you know, don't really see much of my work. You know, things like don't say the same word in the sentence more than once, like things like that, I'm able to like pick up on very quickly. And then I have friends who turn around and go, how do you like edit things so, you know, quickly and pick up on like errors and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that was
practice.
Like all my childhood. You know, my parents I would give copies of my assignments to my parents and they would go with a red pen. And like, you get the assignment back and it's more red pen than like the ink that you printed the thing on.
That was why I never let my parents look at anything that I did, because I was so worried about that sort of thing.
I had the same thing. I had the same conniptions right up until like grade 10, grade 11, where I think my parents, kind of lost it. Like they were just like a little bit upset that I didn't trust them. And then... B, they just like finally realized that they just needed to. wait a second. I finally realized that they weren't doing things like to harm me, but they were just like trying to make my writing better, because I am not a good writer whatsoever. It's funny because I'm a journalist, but like it's so interesting because I'm so glad that I did, and I'm watching my siblings fall for the same trappings that I did. You know, as the eldest of 10, you know, I'm watching siblings 4 and 5 at the moment go, oh, you know, mum and dad can't edit my assignments. They're just going to pick out everything that's wrong and get mad at me. It's like, well, no, they want to make your writing
They're doing
better.
it to help.
Yeah. And like when it comes to a school, like obviously your writing is deeply personal to you. So like that, you know, that process is different. However, when it comes to like a school kind of thing, I think it's really important to have at least, you know, someone who's a bit older than you eyes on it so that they can go, well, wait a second, you need to like get out of this rabbit hole and kind of like look at the broader perspective, or like you've missed this fundamental point that's actually on the task sheet and you have to do it, otherwise you're going to lose marks and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like in my books now, the only thing that I will discuss with my mum in advance of it coming out is the main characters' names, so that she gets to veto any that she really disagrees with deeply, or that she thinks are just outright ridiculous, and why would I have picked that as a name? What was I thinking? But like my auntie, my mum, my sister, they all read my books, but I won't let them do it until it's published, because I'm like, there is nothing you can do about it now.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Yeah. No, you were mentioning the names. It's a whole process in my household because my mum's got rules for names. My dad's very picky about names. So like, I don't think I would ever be able to pass names by them. I think it would take 9 months.
Yeah. Well, I'm always like, I don't know. It's just like what feels right for the character, you know, the kind of sound or the first letter, or like the nicknames I can get off it, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or if my mum's like, well, that's ridiculous. They wouldn't, like, I can't imagine there were many children in that year born with that name.
Yeah.
Don't be silly, Bethan. I'm like, I know, but it felt right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so fascinating. I love it all. It's just amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really love chatting to you, and I feel like there's so much more about your journey through book writing and like everything else that you've experienced that we could talk about. I really want to have you back on now.
Well, anytime. I've had so much fun talking to you as well. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. And all the best for the future. I really am looking forward to all the great stuff that's coming out. You know, your new books. I've got to now go back and watch The Kissing Booth on Netflix. Admittedly, I haven't done that.
That's okay. I won't hold it against you.
Oh, look, every time I speak to someone who creates media, I'm like, oh, it's another thing that I need to read or write or like watch. And it's like, my list is longer and longer. Hell.
That's okay. I'll let you off The Kissing Booth.
Nah, I've got to, I think it's a cultural thing that I need to watch something my age. Is there any, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Reekles. I'm on TikTok at Beth Reekles and Instagram at author Beth Reekles. So you can find me on any of those if you'd like to, and you can find my books pretty much wherever books are sold online, in bookstores, ebook stores, audiobooks as well. My new book, Love Lockdown, or Lockdown on London Lane, comes out February 1st if you're interested in maybe pre-ordering that. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, just in time for Valentine's Day.
Exactly, yeah.
Has there been any media that you've been watching or consuming that you want to plug?
Oh God, there were so many, and like now my brain's just gone blank.
Every single time it happens. Oh, no. Myself, every creator on the Movie Night Crew Network, every guest I've had, and they sit there and go, oh, it's all escaped my brain.
I was even listening to an episode of Dear Hank and John literally just this afternoon where John mentions that he comes prepared for that question to like everything he does by like reminding himself what book he's reading right now or something. And I was like, that's a great idea. Did I do that? Absolutely not. Okay, the book I'm reading right now is called 30 Things I Love About Myself, and it comes out in January. So I got an early copy of that, but it's a really, really brilliant story of self-love from a wonderful writer. And Movie-wise, I'm currently on my Christmas movie binge. So I've been watching Happiest Season, the Kristen Stewart movie, and Last Christmas with Emilia Clarke, both of which I love, and I'm already going to watch them again.
Yeah, I'm not on my Christmas movie binge, particularly because the weather has turned very like rainy and grey. And
Perfect, I love it.
Well, yeah, it's really nice, but it isn't stinking hot, which is usually the Christmas like weather. So I'm definitely I'm probably going to have to force myself to sit down and watch some Christmas stuff at some stage before
Start with
things
the
get
Muppet
way
Christmas
too
Carol. You can't go wrong with that one.
It's so good, so good. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at sam.the.journalist. For a second there, I thought I got it wrong. And on Twitter at samobjournalist. And this week, I found out last night that Tiger King has a second season and it came out the other day.
I just saw about that on Twitter today. How did they get... I don't even know what second series is going to be about.
I am so excited. If you haven't watched the original Tiger King, which I found out many of my friends haven't, please go and watch it.
What were they doing in the first lockdown if it wasn't watching Tiger King?
I don't know. I was speaking to my friends, and then like my radio friends, and you think they'd be pretty up to date, and they're like, "Yeah, never got into it."
Oh my god!
And like, I have a friend who's moving back to the UK at the end of the year in this group, and he goes, it just epitomizes everything I dislike about true crime, and I'm like, that is totally not what Tiger King is. And
I'm not much of a true crime person, but Tiger King was something else.
It's beyond true crime at that point. It's just amazing. And the second series, from what I could gather in the trailer, is more about the ramifications of the first series combined with some further deeper investigation into some of the allegations. I especially want to find out the Carol Baskin, like, did she actually murder her husband and whatever? Like, that is what I want to find out.
I can see them stringing that investigation out for like 6 episodes and coming to no conclusion, though.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they know they've got like a gold mine there, and like just as The Last of Us are coming out of lockdowns and stuff, I'm like, you know what a great way to like catch the pandemic right there.
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely suggest you go check that out. If you haven't checked out Tiger King, A, shame on you. B, go watch it right now. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for coming on the podcast. It's been amazing to chat to you.
Yeah, and you, Sam. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much, and all the best for the future.
And you, and enjoy your trip away in January.
Thank you for listening to Content and Capable. You can follow the podcast socials at Content, the letter N, Capable, on Instagram and Twitter. You can send a super boring email to us through contentandcapablepod@gmail.com. The art was done by Opia. You can follow them on opia_art on Instagram. Opia is spelled OPIA. Feel free to message them about making art for your project. Our music was written, recorded, and edited by Nora Strauss-Riggs. You can find Nora at Kane_I, that's I as in the body part, on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to message her about making music for your project or editing your podcast. I am proud to be a part of the Movie Night Crew Network, which features Of the Eldest Gods, a chapter-by-chapter Rick Riordan pod full of myths and legends, My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast that follows the true hero of Avatar The Last Airbender, the Cabbage Cart Guy, Fandom's Gone Wrong, a show that discusses all things fandoms, the Movie Night Crew, join some friends as they react to some terrible, some meh, and some really great movies, and the Restricted section, a chapter-by-chapter Harry Potter pod with lots of spoilers all the time.
What's up, potheads? It's me, your host, Christina. Welcome to the Restricted section. No, we're not in Hogwarts. It's like a metaphor. Do you get it? Like, we're raunchy, and we get drunk, and we make sex jokes, and we have an all spoilers all the time policy. So, it's like the Restricted section. I've been told that explaining jokes makes them funnier. If you've ever wondered how the Marauders map actually works, if you've ever thought that maybe Snape sometimes wears jeans, If you've ever thought that Draco and Harry are for sure in love, I mean, they're for sure in love. If you've ever had a hard time deciding who you'd rather bang, Bill or Charlie, obviously Charlie, then this podcast is for you. You don't even have to do the reading, we'll do it for you. Catch the Restricted Section every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts, and find us online at Restricted Section Pod.
Content and Capable is a podcast all about answering the question, how do you adult? Don't forget to rate and review it on your favourite podcatcher, and I will see you next Monday for another episode.
That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.